Welcome to Tea and Transits. It's Monday, November 6th, 9:48, and we've got like an hour or two until the transit shifts into line 2, and then we got our AMA coming up with Prana. So I'm going to read Gate 1, the creative self-expression. Creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. Line 2, love is light. Exalted Venus as a symbol of beauty, the required harmony between established values and ideals that enriches inspiration. Self-expression conditioned by ideals and values. Mars in detriment, desires and passions have their place, but not at the expense of creation. Self-expression limited by desires and passions. As a musician, I can relate to this one a lot. In sometimes the desire to create is the thing that is in the way of creation. For instance, if I'm like trying to build like a house track or a dance track, but what's coming through me is like healing medicine music, and I don't subject myself to the law of creation, which is spontaneous, which is without limitation, and I try and do the thing that I think needs to be done. It throws it off. And so we're talking about Venus exalted as a symbol of beauty, and how beautiful it is to have a self-expression that's conditioned by ideas and values as opposed to my own personal desires and passions. Which, interesting thing about the word passion, the root of passion is passio, which means to suffer. So the suffer, there's part of this energy around passion, which is really begging the question, what are you willing to suffer for? Like, you're willing to suffer for your creation and your art. But some people get to this place in their passion where they're suffering for the sake of suffering, and it's no longer about the art. It's no longer about creation, and it's become more about them having the catharsis and through suffering, glimpsing creation, but not necessarily being in the full flow of creation. And so line 2 today, again, it's Hermit Day. So it's a good day to kind of like go within. It's a good day to check in with yourself as to what your self-expression is being conditioned by. Because naturally, we talk a lot about deconditioning in human design. And there's this concept that conditioning is bad, but really, in human design, like, you just start with one conditioning, and now I'm going to the conditioning of a reflector or a generator or an emotional generator. So you're just shifting your conditioning, and it's not good or bad. It's what is appropriate for this vehicle, this body, because that's one thing that you can't really change. You can improve it, but you can't fundamentally change your genetic structure. At least not a lot of the way people want to be able to change it. So you have to figure out what software works with your hardware, is basically what I'm saying. And self-expression is a huge part of that. Although if you don't have this defined, it may not necessarily be a huge part of your life. However, today it is. And so take into account how your self-expression is conditioned and limited. Because again, limits are not necessarily bad things either. They are just part of the conditioning, which is like, the road is the limit to where the car can drive, but the car's not going to do well in the ocean or off the cliff. That's why the road is there. So anyway, that's line 2 of Gate 1. And it's very windy here today, if you can't tell. And Gate 2, the receptive, the direction of the self, receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined, the root of action. Line 2 is genius. Unconscious and unlearnable alignment of stimulus and response, the natural. Exaltation, Jupiter, the inner strength to focus and realize, a natural gift for unlearnable knowing. Mars in detriment, again, genius as madness, no knowledge exclusively as power for the enhancement of ego, the delusion that knowledge is power. Interesting. The delusion that knowledge is power. I've always heard it quite often that knowledge is power, but as I've gotten older, I realized that knowledge is not necessarily power. Knowledge embodied and applied can be powerful, but knowledge alone is not necessarily power. It is the fertile soil, but it alone is not fruiting trees. And so important to know that there is a natural gift for unlearnable knowing, in the sense that what I'm getting from that is, right, there's certain things that nobody can teach you, right? And with human design, there's a lot of teachers out there, but you're the only person that can apply and connect with your genius, either through an exaltation or a detriment, right? Because there's some people out here trying to learn more, thinking that that will give them more power. And it's not true. Most of the times generally it's just not true, that the more you know, the more powerful you are. And in a lot of cases, the more you know, the less powerful you are, because, back in the day when we only could know about what was in front of us, there was less of this scattering of energy and intention. Like, there's people who want to help, right, the conflict in the Middle East, and they're unwilling to make their bed. They're unwilling to take care of their family. They're unwilling to, be the light where they're at, because they know that out there somewhere there's like some kind of darkness going on. And so, there's a lot of how you say advocacy and activism that's happening that is very outward focused and not in the moment here in the land. Like, one of the ways that I had to shift my strategy and my direction when the whole conflict in the Middle East started boiling up was thinking about how grateful I am to be in a place of peace, but to have fertile soil and water. We have a lot of that here on Maui. And one of the things that I did to mitigate this energy that I was feeling, this very chaotic energy, all of this knowledge that I was able to absorb through technology and my smartphones, was I just put my phone down and I got outside and I started pulling weeds. And I was like in an emotional state pulling weeds because of how much knowledge I had. And so there's this concept about paralysis by analysis, or paralysis by choice, in a way where if there's an abundance of choices and generators, you can probably resonate with this. If there's like 100 different brands of cereal to choose from, sometimes that's overwhelming and that's paralyzing, because which one am I going to choose? You could sacral test all of them, right? But ultimately, and we know this from looking at the where the money flows in organization. A lot of the cereal, all the 100 brands of cereal are owned by like 2 or 3 companies. Same thing with media. All the different outlets are owned by like 2 or 3 companies. And so, what we're really looking at, I'm just totally diving off the deep end here with this genius. But a lot of the people who accumulate this knowledge without actually being a blessing in their lives, right? They get very top heavy and they become very disconnected. These are people who own, multi-million-dollar companies that are very disconnected from the things actually necessary to be alive. Because I remember one of my financial teachers told me one time that he needs a base level income of $20,000 a month. Think about that, $20,000 every single month. Otherwise, he feels like he's starving and he's in the danger zone. For me, I could make $20,000 last 6 months. Now with the family, I would say that. Before that, I could make $20,000 last a year and a half. And I have all the things I need. I'm living a good life. I'm happy. And so the genius as madness, as it's displayed in this detriment, is there's going to be a lot of energy, I would say, in terms of accusations of people having too much knowledge or too much resources, is one of the things that I would say is probably going to be really hot on the plate, as well as the recognition of people who are, I want to say, in states of self-motivated learning. Like, no one is coming in your house right now and being like, learn this transit, learn this human design stuff. You're self-motivated. And that's what I think the whole a natural gift for unlearnable knowing is, this self-motivation to learn and accumulate knowledge. One more side thing is that the term genius comes from Greek, the Greek language, and it's one that describes a being that you connect with. So it's not necessarily like I'm a genius, More so, I have a relationship with a genius that the genius tells me what mechanisms to invent. And that was a big thing back then. Same thing with the word demon. Demon was not like some like evil energy. It was actually interchangeable. So someone would say, "Oh yeah, my genius told me last night to build this invention, or to calculate these mathematics. My demon last night told me to do that." And you can see how the again the knowledge in a way is that potential power. Understanding that when people are talking about demons or genius, that the root of that word was something else. Also, the contextual awareness, the external authority tells us that demon, in that the context of the modern sense of the word, it's a very triggering word, especially for people that are highly religious. It immediately puts them into a fight or flight situation, which it's kind of funny. It's like, you ever guys seen that I don't know. It's just like a thing, like the elephant being afraid of the mouse. That's a human being afraid of a demon. Like the elephant has so much power and so much authority and weight and energy compared to the mouse. Human being is like the elephant. The demon, even though it brings through beautiful ideas and the genius brings through amazing ideas, it's still a mouse in compared to the human. And so that's one thing that humans do a lot, is we aggrandize things that we can't see or we don't understand. And not to say that we should place ourselves at the top of the hierarchy, but we are existing at a very high level of capacity for creation and manifestation. So, with that being said, thank you for coming into Tea and Transits. Prana is now here, and so we're gonna launch into this segment of the AMA. I'm gonna stop the recording now. What's up, Prana? How we doing, bro?
Hey, how's it going? Good.
Just I figured I'd do